do.
Does everyone have a pen? Thank you. Sir, could you state your name and spell your last name for the court reporter, please?
My name is John Brohard. Last name is spelled B-R-O-U-H-A-R-D.
Thank you. Mr. Buckley, you may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Welcome forward.
Thank you.
What do you do for a living?
I work as an assistant district attorney in Alameda County, California, which is where Oakland, California is located.
What do you do on a day-to-day basis now?
So I'm a criminal prosecutor, and my current assignment is I supervise our felony trial staff attorneys.
Can you describe for the jury your educational background that allowed you to become first an assistant district attorney?
Yes, I got an undergraduate degree from the University of Southern California, and then I graduated from law school at the University of California at Berkeley, and then began my career working as a lawyer.
Can you describe for the jury the different positions you've held as a lawyer and what you've done during your career?
So after law school, I spent a year as a law clerk to a federal judge in San Francisco. After that, I worked at a law firm for 2 years. And then after that, I was hired by the Alameda County District Attorney's Office, and I've remained at that office ever since.
What kind of positions have you held at the district attorney's office?
So at the District Attorney's Office, we start off trying lower level cases, misdemeanor cases. I did that for a number of years. Then we started handling felony cases, and we initially put on what are called preliminary hearings, like mini trials on felony cases. And then eventually I started trying felony cases. And over the years, I've been on felony trial staff for the bulk of my career, trying felony cases. And while I was doing that, I also became the supervisor of our gang unit, so prosecuting primarily criminal street gang related crimes. For a period of time, I worked as a charging deputy, which means we review police reports and make decisions about whether we're going to file criminal charges and what charges. And then I moved into my current assignment where I now supervise the people that are actually doing the jury trials.
During the course of your career, have you tried homicide cases?
I have.
Have you tried death penalty cases?
I have.
All right. How long have you been a practicing lawyer?
34 years, I'd say.
How long have you been a practicing district attorney?
About 31 years.
Based on your experience as a district attorney in California, are you familiar with the various documents associated with a defendant's arrest?
Yes.
Are you familiar with the process that occurs when someone is arrested and booked into a jail in California?
Yes.
How are you familiar with those types of documents?
Those documents are documents that we use almost daily in the job of being a prosecutor. So we're reviewing records relating to arrests, reviewing court documents, records from the law enforcement agencies. So it's just part of the daily work of being a prosecutor.
Are you also familiar with documents related to when a defendant is sentenced after being convicted of a crime, either from the county jail or from the Department of Corrections?
Yes.
Are you familiar the same way you just described?
Yes, we have, as part of our job as a prosecutor, we are oftentimes in court dealing with proving up prior convictions, and I'm familiar with the kinds of records we use to establish that.
This time, Your Honor, the state would introduce a certified copy of court records and for the defendant's conviction in 1985 case with docket number 83356 as State's Exhibit 41.
Any objection? It will be received as State's Exhibit 41.
State would also introduce certified copies of court records and conviction for the defendant's conviction in 1985 California case with docket number 83355 as State's 42. It's State's Exhibit AP for identification.
Any objection? It will be received as State's Exhibit 42.
This time, State would introduce State's Exhibit AQ, which is Department of Corrections records from the defendant's 1985 convictions. Included with it is a business record certification, and proper notice has been given. The State would move to introduce that as State's 43.
Any objection? It will be received as State's Exhibit 43.
State would move State's AR for identification into evidence, which is a booking photo and fingerprints of the defendant's 2003 arrest, along with a business record certification, and proper notice has been given.
Any objection?
That would be State's 44, Your Honor.
It will be admitted as State's Exhibit 44.
And finally, the State would move to introduce certified copies of court records for the defendant's conviction in that same 2003 arrest under docket number 146022.
Any objection? It will be received as State's Exhibit 45.
Are you familiar with a man named Demorris Andy Hunter?
I am.
How?
I prosecuted him for murder, a murder that occurred in 2002, and was prosecuted in Alameda County and had a jury trial, I believe, in 2005.
We're going to get into a little more of those specifics in a little bit. I know it's been many years since then, but do you happen to see him in court here today?
I do.
Can you please point him out and tell me what he's wearing and where he's sitting?
He's sitting at the table over there, wearing a gray colored shirt.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the witnesses identified the defendant?
The record will so reflect.
During the course of preparing for that trial that you had for a 2002 murder in California, did you also investigate and review documents associated with his prior criminal history?
I did.
Without telling me the results right now, how did you go about doing that and getting those records?
So, as part of the case that I prosecuted, we obtained records regarding the defendant's prior convictions that were also in Alameda County, the same county I work in. And so we obtain certified copies of court records, documents that are in the court file. We obtain records from the Sheriff's Department that relate to arrest and fingerprinting, identification, that sort of thing. And we also obtain records from the California Department of Corrections, which is the prison system in California, that also have records that document convictions for persons.
Did those records that you obtained from those various agencies all relate to crimes and convictions that had happened in 1985 that the defendant was convicted of?
Yes.
I want to ask you some general questions about what happens when someone gets arrested in California. When a person is arrested in California by law enforcement, what happens to that person when they're brought to the county jail?
So the arrests are done, the documentation is done at the county level. So in Alameda County, if a person is arrested in Alameda County by any police agency, then they are booked into the county jail. And in that booking process, there's a number of things that occur, one of which is taking fingerprints of the person who's arrested, obtaining, identifying information about that person, name, date of birth, that sort of thing. Also, a photograph is taken of the person upon their arrest to document and identify the person who's arrested.
Are those records you just described normally kept by certain agencies, such as the Alameda County Court or the California Department of Justice?
So the records regarding the arrest are kept by the Alameda County Sheriff's Department, and then further records are maintained by the Superior Court of Alameda County, and then records are maintained by the Department of Corrections, the prison system as well.
And on a later date, can someone like yourself, through the process you just described, go get those records to use in like your case?
Yes.
All right. Also, when someone is arrested, are they assigned a specific number?
Yes, in Alameda County, when somebody is arrested, the first time that they're arrested in Alameda County, when they're identified, the fingerprints are taken, they are assigned a unique, I'll call it a number. We call it, it's a personal file number. The shorthand for that is PFN. And that identifier begins with 3 letters and then has 3 digits. And it's unique to that individual.
Does that number then track to that unique individual any future time that person could be arrested?
Yes, so if after the initial arrest, when that person is assigned a PFN, then let's say sometime later they are arrested again, when they are fingerprinted at the jail, then they link that person and they maintain that same PFN number for the rest of their life.
Does that unique PFN number appear on many of the documents that we're going to look at to track the defendant as being the same person arrested for all these different crimes?
It does.
After a defendant is arrested for a crime, how does that defendant officially get charged with the crime and enter into the actual court system?
So if somebody is arrested, then the arresting agency, like the police department, in this case the Oakland Police Department, provides police reports and materials to the district attorney's office, which is the prosecutor's office. And we review those materials and we make decisions about whether to charge somebody with a crime, and if so, what crimes we're going to charge. If we decide to charge a case, then we file the charges for felonies in California. That filing begins with filing what we call a complaint, and it lists the defendant and it lists the charges. Then that gets filed with the court and begins the process of a criminal case against that defendant.
What happens when a person either enters a plea admitting what they did, admitting their crime, or goes to trial and is convicted by a jury? What kind of documents are generated in that process?
So in some cases, a person will be convicted as a result of entering a plea of guilty. And so in that process, there is a hearing in front of a judge where certain things take place, and the defendant enters the pleas of guilty. There are various court documents that essentially document that. There's a transcript that's prepared of the court proceedings. There are documents, we call them minutes or minute orders, that the clerk prepares that are all filed with the court to document the fact of conviction. After somebody's convicted of a felony, the other way that can occur is we can have a trial, and if there is a jury verdict of a conviction, then those documents are recorded in the court file as well. And after conviction, then eventually there will be a sentencing that a judge does, and that sentencing is also documented by a transcript and by various documents that are what we call abstracts of judgment. That's kind of the primary document that shows what the person was convicted of and what they were sentenced to.
Do prosecutors and defense lawyers and judges and everybody in the system rely on these records to do their job?
Yes.
If a person is sentenced to prison, do the prisons in California also maintain certain records regarding that now convicted inmate?
Yes, so if somebody is sentenced to prison, then when they are brought to the prison system, they're booked into the prison system, similar to when they're booked into the county jail. So they obtain fingerprints, photograph, identifying information. And they also receive from the court the documents, the abstract of judgment, the documents that show the prison, okay, this is what this person was convicted of, this is what their sentence is, so that they can input that information for their system as well.
Does the Department of Corrections or the prison system also often collect fingerprints and take photographs of the now convicted defendant?
They do.
And have you had an occasion as a prosecutor to use and refer to all of these different types of records that you've talked about today?
Yes, all the time.
I'm going to ask you some specific questions about the records that were just introduced into evidence dealing with the defendant and have you explain kind of what they mean. Let's start with an exhibit of States 41. What is this document?
So this is the first page of a criminal complaint that was filed against this defendant relating to the 1985 cases.
And who is the victim of what we see on the screen now?
So there are, in the 1985, there were 2 cases, but they were dealt with together and sentenced together. So this is one of the cases, and this is a charge that relates to the victim, whose name is Adolphus Williams.
And what were the charges associated with Adolphus Williams that the defendant was charged with?
Attempted murder and use of a firearm, and assault with a firearm, also with use of a firearm.
Is there a specification of what kind of firearm was used?
In that case, it was a sawed-off shotgun.
And what legal effect does this complaint have in the system and the defendant?
So this document, when it's filed, is the initiation of a criminal case against this defendant. And so the document is prepared by the district attorney's office. It is signed by a deputy district attorney, and it's also signed by a police officer. Once that's done, then that gets filed with the court and begins the case.
And what date is alleged that these crimes were committed regarding Adolphus Williams?
February 4th, 1985.
I'm going to show you that same page now with a portion blown up. You mentioned earlier a PFN number. What do we see in this slide?
So on the complaint, oftentimes the PFN number for the defendant appears. So for this defendant, his PFN number was AOW126, and that's printed on the complaint.
And will that unique PFN number appear in some of the future documents we're going to look at?
Yes.
So what do we see on the second page of this exhibit?
So this second page is the complaint from the other case that was filed. These 2 cases were filed at different times, close in time, but this is the complaint for the second case in 1985.
And what's the victim's name of this second case in 85?
This is Eric Wright.
What charges was the defendant charged with regarding Eric Wright?
Attempted murder with use of a firearm and the infliction of great bodily injury.
Showing you now Exhibit 42. What do we see here?
This is an amended complaint relating to one of the cases that we talked about before.
And we see up at top it says first amended.
Yes.
What is meant by an amended complaint? Why would that happen?
So once we file charges, sometimes we will change things, add charges, sometimes reduce charges. So you can file an amended complaint that has different charges or additional charges from the original complaint.
So does this image we see of regarding States 42, is this also, again, still dealing with Eric Wright and the charges against Eric, or charges involving Eric Wright as a victim against the defendant?
That's correct.
Okay. Showing you page 2 of that amended complaint. What does this show?
So this shows the amended complaint, and it has the charges related to Eric Wright. And then there are it shows a second count regarding Eric Wright as well, for assault with a firearm and infliction of great bodily injury.
And showing you now the third page of that amended complaint. What do we see here?
An additional charge, which is labeled as the third count, and it charges the defendant with murder of Mr. Cesar Guzman.
Now, did the defendant eventually enter a plea to a charge of voluntary manslaughter against Cesar, with Cesar Guzman being the victim?
Yes,
And what was the date of the offense of the crime committed against Cesar Guzman?
January 6th, 1985.
Showing you on page from State's Exhibit 41, did Demorris Hunter enter a plea in connection with the various crimes that we've just talked about in those cases involving the victims, Adolphus Williams, Eric Wright, and Cesar Guzman?
Yes.
What does this document show?
So this is a court document that documents the sentencing for those charges that the defendant pled guilty to on those two cases.
And showing you the same document again with something blown up. Do we see that same unique personal file number present on this document as well?
Yes, that same PFN appears on many of the court records as well.
And what is the significance again of that PFN number?
The PFN number is a unique identifying number for this defendant. So it's used on various documents to essentially establish the identification of the person who was charged or convicted in this case.
And showing you that same report and sentence from State's Exhibit 41. According to this document, which pertains to the crimes committed against victims Adolphus Williams, let me back up. According to this document regarding the victim Adolphus Williams, what was the defendant convicted of?
Attempted murder and personal infliction of great bodily injury.
What does that mean?
So attempted murder is an attempt to kill somebody. And then in California, there is a charge, that can be what we call an enhancement, where somebody, if somebody personally inflicts great bodily injury during the commission of the crime, that can be an enhancement.
In California, what is meant by the term attempted first-degree murder?
Attempted first-degree murder in California is, what it means is that the defendant attempted to kill another human being with what we call express malice aforethought, which is a fancy way of saying that at the time they committed the crime, they had in their mind an actual intent to kill that human being.
Like premeditation?
Correct.
And according to this document, did the defendant admit to inflicting great bodily injury on Adolphus Williams as part of this plea agreement?
He did.
And what does great bodily injury involve in California?
It is serious, not trivial injury. So it has to be greater than a minor injury.
Would being shot in the face with a sawed-off shotgun constitute great bodily injury?
Yes.
And when did this conviction for the crime involving victim Adolphus Williams occur?
The conviction occurs when the defendant, in this case, when he changed his plea to plead guilty, and that occurred on November 20th of 1985.
Showing you a document in States 42. What does this document show?
This is the same document as before. It's documenting the sentencing hearing for the other case where the defendant was sentenced together.
The one involving Eric Wright and Cesar Guzman?
Yes.
And I'm showing you again that same document with a blow-up portion. Do we see that same PFN number linking this document to this defendant?
That's correct.
Okay. And the report here that we see as far as the other case shows, it says see attachment. Was there an attachment?
Yes.
Showing you the next page of States 42, the attachment. What does this show?
This now documents the crimes that he was convicted of and that he was sentenced on.
Did you also review the transcripts of the hearing in which Demorris Hunter entered a plea in this case?
I did.
Based on the change of plea transcript, was the crime that we saw regarding assault with a firearm involving Eric Wright dropped?
Yes.
According to the change of plea transcript, was a charge of assault with a firearm added for a victim named Jorge Hernandez, who was with Cesar Guzman at the time he was killed?
It was.
So according to this document and the other the change of plea transcripts you reviewed, which pertains to crimes committed against Eric Wright, Cesar Guzman, and Jorge Hernandez, what crimes was Demorris convicted of in this case?
So he was convicted of attempted murder of Eric Wright. He was convicted of voluntary manslaughter for Mr. Guzman. And he was convicted of assault with a firearm on Mr. Hernandez.
What does the crime of assault with a firearm involve in California?
Assault with a firearm is a fancy way of saying that you shot at somebody. It can also be committed where you point a loaded gun at somebody, but something happens where you don't fire. So pointing a loading gun at somebody can be assault with a firearm, but it's more commonly the shooting of a gun at a person.
And now, just so the jury isn't misled, in this specific case involving Jorge Hernandez, he was not alleged to have fired at Jorge Hernandez, just pointed a gun at him, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So he was convicted of assault with a firearm on Jorge Hernandez, and you mentioned voluntary manslaughter involving victim Cesar Guzman.
Correct.
What does voluntary manslaughter mean in California?
Voluntary manslaughter is what we call a lesser included offense to that of murder. So if somebody kills somebody unlawfully, normally that is murder, but it can be reduced to voluntary manslaughter. The most traditional way that happens is, for example, if the killing was deemed to be done in the heat of passion, it makes it less than murder. So he pled guilty to a lesser crime of murder, which is voluntary manslaughter, which is the unlawful killing of a human being without malice aforethought.
And did that involve a firearm?
Yes.
Did he admit during the sentencing documents that the defendant used a firearm when he killed Cesar Guzman?
Yes, he admitted an enhancement that he personally used a firearm during the commission of the crime.
Did he also admit to personally using the firearm to point at Jorge Hernandez for the aggravated assault conviction?
Yes.
Did he also admit to inflicting serious bodily injury upon Eric Wright by shooting him?
Yes.
Showing you next page of States 42. What is this document that we see?
So this is the abstract of judgment. This is a record that is prepared by the court, and that is filed with the court, and this is what documents sort of at the end the charges the person was convicted of and the sentencing.
And do these documents also have that same PFN number you've been describing?
Yes.
And we see up top a circle around, and it's not real easily to see here, but a circle around one of the docket numbers, 83355. What does that signify?
So there were two dockets, two cases that were put together for sentencing. And both of those dockets are listed on this abstract of judgment. So the abstract of judgment puts it all together.
So this abstract contains the results of all of the different charges and crimes that we've been talking about so far.
Correct.
And we see some X's in the middle of this document. What do those mean?
Oh, those are, they put an X in the box to indicate for a certain crime, for example, if there was an enhancement like use of a firearm or infliction of great bodily injury.
And referring to this next page, what do we see here?
So this is still part of that abstract of judgment, and it shows the conviction for attempted murder on one of the counts.
As a result of the defendant's convictions for voluntary manslaughter on victim Cesar Guzman, attempted murder on victim Eric Wright, attempted murder of Adolphus Williams, and assault with a firearm of Jorge Hernandez, was he sent to the Department of Corrections to serve a prison sentence?
Yes.
Once an inmate arrives at the Department of Corrections, are they assigned a Department of Corrections or a California Department of Corrections number?
Yes.
Does that person have that same unique number if the person goes back to prison?
That depends. The Department of Corrections assigns a unique number the first time that person goes to prison. A person can be released from prison on parole. If they commit a new violation while they're still on parole and are sent back to prison, they will keep that unique Department of Corrections number. On the other hand, if they complete parole and it's not until later that they commit a new crime that they're sent to prison to, then the Department of Corrections will give them a new Department of Corrections number.
So the document we see here, which is in States 43, what is this?
So what this is a certification and cover page from the Department of Corrections that is, bottom line is, we can order records from the Department of Corrections, and we do that all the time, and there's a process for this. And then when the Department of Corrections sends us the records, they come with this cover page and certification, and then the records are attached to that.
There's a certification, just verify the accuracy of the records?
Correct.
Okay. And what was the Department of Corrections number assigned to Demorris Hunter as a result of these convictions we've been talking about?
It's the letter D like David, 23120.
Does the Department of Corrections also maintain some of these sentencing documents that we've looked at already as well?
Yes.
Do they also fingerprint when a person arrives at the Department of Corrections?
They do.
What do we see here on the next page of States 43?
So this is a copy of the fingerprint page from the Department of Corrections from when they took fingerprints when the defendant was received.
Whose name appears on the fingerprint card?
The defendant, Demorris Hunter.
And is there a DC number at the top of, a Department of Corrections number at the top of that?
Yes, it's kind of faded.
Can you make it out? If not, it's okay.
23120. It looks like D like David.
Okay. Does that appear to be the same number that was present in the letter we just looked at?
Yes.
Okay. Does the Department of Corrections also photograph an inmate.
They do.
Showing you next page of States 43. What does this show?
This is the Department of Corrections photograph of the defendant that they had on file with their records.
You recognize the person in the photograph?
I do.
Who is it?
The defendant, Demorris Hunter.
Is the DC number on this photograph also the same number that we saw in the fingerprint card and in the letter from Department of Corrections?
It does.
So moving on, you mentioned earlier that you actually were the prosecutor that prosecuted the defendant for the murder of Ivona Huntley.
Correct.
How did you become the prosecutor assigned to that case?
At that time, I was working on trial staff, and I was prosecuting murder cases, and so I was assigned this case to be the prosecutor for a jury trial.
And when did that murder actually occur?
The murder was in 2002.
Following that murder, obviously, did law enforcement do an investigation?
Correct.
Was the defendant eventually arrested?
He was arrested
Where?
in Houston, Texas.
Was he then brought from Houston, Texas, back to California to answer for your charges?
Yes.
And after he answered for your charges and your jury trial was over, was he eventually then brought to Florida to answer for these charges?
Yes.
When he was brought back to California from Houston, Texas, would he have been booked into the Alameda County Jail?
Yes.
Would he have been photographed and fingerprinted?
Yes.
Is that standard procedure when someone is booked?
Yes.
Showing you photograph from States 44. What do we see here?
So this is a certified copy of the booking record for the defendant when he was booked after his arrest in Texas and brought to California.
And when was he actually brought to the Alameda County Jail?
He was booked on March 6th of 2003.
Do you recognize the person in the photo?
I do.
Who is it?
It's the defendant, Demorris Hunter.
What was the date of birth associated with Demorris Hunter, according to the booking information?
April 18th, 1966.
We also see a PFN number listed here. What number is that?
So we see that same PFN number, the AOW 126. In this record, it has some digits in front of it, which is 010. That is, for lack of a better word, a computer code for where he was booked.
Okay. Is this the same unique PFN number that we saw on all the documents that we looked at regarding the 1985 conviction?
Yes,
And does that further show that we're talking about the same person?
it does.
Showing you the next page of States 44. What is this?
This is a certified copy of the fingerprint records that were taken by the Alameda County Sheriff's Department when the defendant was booked into our jail in 2003.
In the top right, do we see that same unique PFN number?
We do.
And what's the date of birth associated with the fingerprints?
It is 4/18/1966.
What's the name associated, well, what is the name we see on this fingerprint card?
Demorris Hunter.
Okay. Now, is the middle name misspelled on this one?
Maybe, it's hard to read this close up, but I think there was a misspelling of the middle name.
Is it A-N-O-Y instead of A-N-D-Y?
Yeah, Noy, yeah,
Does all of the other information on this match the defendant?
it does.
Likely a typo?
Yes.
After Demorris Hunter was booked into the Alameda County Jail in 2003, having been brought there from Houston, Texas, did the criminal case against him for the murder of Ivona Huntley, in essence, begin?
Yes,
Was he charged with the murder of Ivona Huntley in a formal charging document?
he was.
Showing you the first page of States 45. What does this show?
So this is a charging document that is called an information. So when a person is charged with a felony, the first charging document that is filed is called a complaint. And then there can be a preliminary hearing that's conducted. And after that preliminary hearing, If the defendant is what we call bound over for trial, then we file charges in an information. So the information is the charging document that is in effect at the time of trial.
And is this the charging document that brought him into the justice system to be prosecuted for the first-degree murder of Ivona Hunter?
This would have been, there would have been a complaint first, and then after the preliminary hearing was when this was, the information was filed.
I see. When did the murder of Ivona Huntley actually occur?
March 29th, 2002.
What was he charged with regarding the murder of Ivona Huntley?
He was charged with murder, and he was charged with personal use of a firearm causing death.
Would he have been charged with the crime that we know here as first-degree premeditated murder?
So in California, we charge the crime of murder, and then the degree of murder is determined by the jury.
Okay. Eventually, was he convicted of the crime of first-degree murder?
He was.
Does that involve premeditation, like here?
Yes, it is. First-degree murder in California means that the murder was willful, deliberate, and premeditated.
In California, can a person's prior convictions be used to enhance the penalty associated with this murder charge?
Yes.
Do you typically allege those prior convictions in the charging document that we look at here?
Yes.
And I'm showing you, excuse me, page 3, I believe, of States 45. What do we see here?
So in the information, after we list the actual charges, then we allege or charge him with having prior felony convictions. And they are listed out and labeled. For example, first prior conviction is at the top, then there's a second prior conviction, and so forth.
And did you include the prior convictions involving the crimes committed against Adolphus Williams, Cesar Guzman, Eric Wright, and Jorge Hernandez in your charging document?
Yes.
Do we see that in these various portions of your charging document?
Correct.
Did Demorris Hunter go to trial in Alameda County regarding the murder of Ivona Huntley?
Yes,
You were the prosecutor that tried the case?
I was.
What was the result of that trial?
He was convicted by the jury of first-degree murder, and the jury found true that he personally and intentionally discharged a firearm causing death.
And what do we see in this page of States 45?
So he was eventually sentenced after that trial, and so this is the abstract of judgment, like we saw before for the 1985 cases. This is the abstract of judgment for the case that I prosecuted that documents what he was convicted of and what his sentence was.
And he was convicted according to the document of first-degree murder?
That's correct.
And does your name also appear on the sheet?
Yes, they list my name as the counsel for the people, which is the prosecutor.
So to wrap this up, was the defendant convicted of attempted first-degree murder causing great bodily injury in 1985 for victim Adolphus Williams for shooting Mr. Williams?
Yes,
Was he convicted of voluntary manslaughter in 1985 on victim Cesar Guzman while using a firearm for shooting and killing Mr. Guzman?
yes,
Was he convicted of attempted first-degree murder in 1985 for victim Eric Wright causing great bodily injury as well for shooting him?
yes,
Was he also convicted of assault with a firearm for pointing a gun at Jorge Hernandez?
yes,
And was he ultimately convicted of first-degree murder in 2005 for victim Ivona Huntley for shooting and killing her from a premeditated design?
yes.
Thank you, sir. No other questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
No questions, Your Honor.
Any questions from the jury? May this witness be excused.
Yes, Your Honor.
You are free to go, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.